School days, dear old golden rule days, reading and writing and arithmetic, taught to the tune of a hickory stick. You were my queen in calico, I was your barefoot bashful beau, and you wrote on my slate, I love you so. When we were a couple of kids, school days, oh, them were cool days. Psycho and bio and polytech, learn to the tune of the old man's check. We studied Kim with great aplomb. Came the exams, we still were calm. You know what came up? The atomic bomb. When we were a couple of kids. Of course, that was a different verse. It wasn't part of the original song that was written way back in 1907. Those words were added many years later by Johnny Mercer, one of America's great song people, probably in 1945, 1950, somewhere in between there. He included a word in that, aplomb. So your lesson today, kids, get your dictionary out and see what that means. That's what I had to do. It's always great to keep on learning no matter how old we are. Football, baseball, keeps you out of pool halls. We went to proms and we wonder why. We miss the sweetheart of Sigma Chi. We tried for Harvard and old Purdue, flunked out of Princeton and Culver too. So here's to that dear old subnormal you. When we were a couple of sassy, fat and subtle, we were a couple of kids. School days. It is that time again, back to school. In fact, our kids here in the Northwestern Consolidated School District started this past Wednesday. And you know, it doesn't matter how old we are, how young we are, when we went to school, where we went to school, we all have deep memories of those early childhood days. And many of them are very, very similar, which is quite evident when I read this poem written by our own Cindy Miller. School days. Oh, the joy of holding that fat pencil in our hand so tight over the lined paper as we learned our letters and how to write. Next, the little books about Dick, Jane, Sally, and Spot. We learned to read, a skill we joyfully use a lot. Time at school was made easy under Miss Bush's care. Her laugh and manner told us she would always be there. We learned to behave as we were all told what to expect. A spanking at school meant another one at home to collect. We were taught numbers, how to add and subtract, and those skills we still use, that is a fact. No computers from which the answers to gain. We had to use our very own brain. All this learning was balanced with so much fun. As the bell rang for recess, we were ready to run. Red Rover, London Bridge, jump rope, to name a few. Games let us exercise, let off steam, and were so fun to do. Thus went our days through elementary, and then came junior high, and soon we began to care about cute boys and girls that caused us to sigh. And this was a trait we carried all the way through school. Finding out who liked who was for most of us the rule. With acne, blushing, and feeling on display, we learned dances that have stayed with us for many a day. Sock hop, square dancing, the waltz, and jitterbug, let's say we sure could cut a rug. The basketball games were loud and filled with passion, and next day talking about the games was the fashion. Soon it was all over and graduation came, always on a hot, steamy day, with no air conditioning to keep the heat at bay. Soon these students would be back with a child by their side, signing them up for this very same ride. Oh, there are changes every year we go, but it's one of our favorite memories, you know. Yes, even though Cindy was a generation ahead of me, I sure remember some of those very, very same things that she mentioned. Can you remember your first day at school? I can. It was at Triton North, the old Morrill Township building. Mr. Key was the principal that year, and Mrs. Nichols was my first grade teacher. I could read just a little bit when I got to school, but I was so excited to get those books. I think I read every first grade reader that there was in the first 6 weeks. We just did 6 weeks back then, not 9 weeks like they do now. All through elementary school, every teacher I had was my favorite teacher. I had so many good ones. Mrs. Rusharp and Mrs. Wilkins and Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Amick. They were just wonderful, wonderful teachers. I can remember lining up and walking down those long cafeteria hallways. At first, we had lunch up in the balcony there at Triton North, the same place that my daddy played in the pep band years and years before me. Eventually, we ended up down in the main part of the gym, but those were such good memories. John Tressler was the principal there before I left, and what a good man he was. Those early school years were so important. Robin Hopkins there today, joining with us on these memories of school days. Cindy talked in her poem, Robin, about games that we played at recess. I can remember playing games at recess. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. It was great fun. Dodgeball, Red Rover.
Oh, yes.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. My favorite one was we stood in a circle and somebody stood outside the circle behind us, and they had a hanky, and that they would run and drop the hanky, and then the person that they dropped it behind, they would chase them around and drop their handkerchief, I believe that was called. And did you know that that was a really, really old game that was inspired from a nursery rhyme that came over from England?
Well,
yes.
How about that?
Late 1800s. Can you believe that? Except back then, when they would stand in the circle, they would sing a rhyming song so that they had a little lesson, I guess, while they were on recess. But there was another little catch to it. When the person that was dropping the handkerchief ran around and dropped it, the person they dropped it by, that person had to chase him, and then they had to either kiss them or tell the name of their sweetheart.
Oh.
That would have never worked with me in school.
Either option wouldn't have been good.
No, the reason it wouldn't have worked for me is because when I was in elementary school, all the boys had cooties. And that's the last thing we would have done was kiss them.
All the girls had cooties.
Anyway, but I bet that nursery rhyme was an inspiration for a song that we know that was made famous by Ella Fitzgerald. What do you say? A tisket, a tasket, a brown and yellow basket. I sent a letter to my mommy, and on the way I dropped it. I dropped it, I dropped it. Yes, on the way I dropped it. A little girlie picked it up and put it in her pocket. She was trucking on down the avenue without a single thing to do. She went a peck, peck, pecking all around. Then she spied it on the ground. She took it, she took it. She took my yellow basket. And if she doesn't bring it back, why, I think that I would die. Tisket-a-tasket, I lost my yellow basket. And if that girlie don't return it, I don't know what I'll do. Oh dear, I wonder where my basket could be.
Suddenly, 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 suddenly.
Oh gee, I wish that little girl I could see.
Suddenly, 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 suddenly.
Oh, why was I so careless of that basket of mine? That itty bitty basket was a joy of mine. A tisket-a-tasket, I lost my yellow basket. Won't someone help me find my basket and make me happy again?
Was it red?
No, 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 no.
Was it green?
No, 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 no.
Was it blue?
No, 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 just a little yellow basket. A little yellow basket. Well, recess and all those childhood games went away when we moved to the new elementary. The first year that it was open, I was a sixth grader and I went to the new elementary. It was the first year that I had two teachers, and I had a male teacher. His name was Mr. Morris, and my other teacher was Mrs. Harlemert. I loved Mrs. Harlemert. She was our health teacher. And you pretty much had to have a lady health teacher in sixth grade back then, because that was the year of the talk. And you know exactly what I'm talking about when I tell you that was the talk. After 1 year in that elementary school, it was on to junior high, the old Fairland school. Junior high meant not only being in a different building, it meant changing classes. 3 floors of classes there. It was the beginning of band with Mr. Tabor and chorus with Imogene Schaffner. And it was there where I met friends from all those rival schools, and so many of them still are my friends today. While in 7th grade there at the junior high school, my class was particularly tough on math teachers. We went through 3 in just a short period of time. Then one came in that was absolutely in control. And you know, he just happens to still be in the neighborhood. In fact, he is married to another teacher, and I think we will go give them a visit and see what we can find out about their memories about school days. And folks, here I am on the porch of 2 of my former teachers, a junior high teacher and a high school teacher. And behind those masked faces, can anybody make out who that is? Well, I'll tell you. That's Jane Bratton and Dave Bratton, as I said, teachers of mine and folks that have remained friends and we've stayed connected with for, gosh, I don't want to tell you how many years. So how are the 2 of you today?
Doing great.
Doing great. Wearing your mask like you're supposed to.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
And we wear them every time we go out.
I'm glad that you do. That's the teacher in you, Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. I'm going to teach you by example.
And also, I have a hard time when we go to a store not telling the people put that mask.
That's also the teacher in you, for sure. Well, this couple of teachers is truly a couple. They were high school sweethearts. And where was that you guys were high school sweethearts?
Anderson High School.
No, Central. Central Junior High.
Central Junior High is where we met.
Yeah.
In
we didn't
Anderson.
start dating until high school.
In Anderson.
Because our 9th grade was in our junior high.
Okay.
And we met in English class.
Ah, okay.
Where I copied all of her papers because I didn't buy English books or history books.
And he got better grades than I did.
You did better the second time around, I guess,
And
Jane.
he must have corrected my mistakes.
He must have corrected your mistakes. Modestly, he's saying that he copied off you, I'm sure. Because, no, he really did. Oh, I don't know how this is going to go, folks. Anyway, we talked a little bit before I started rolling this tape, which is what I usually do. And I had asked them if they could remember their first day when they went to school. And Jane, in your teacher voice, tell me about your first day at school.
What I remember is sitting in a circle, of course, because it was kindergarten. And I remember that my teacher's name was Mrs. Fricke, and she had perfume that I don't know the name of, but every time I smell it, I think of her.
Even to this day.
Even to this day. Once in a while, I'll smell it, and I'll think, oh, Mrs. Fricke.
We've been talking about how those memories run so deep. They're so vivid of those early childhood days. And how about you, Dave?
Well, I went to Columbia Elementary in Anderson, and on my very first day, I got paddled. So it was traumatic.
Surely not. Do you remember what you did?
I got the teacher's name half right. Her name was Mrs. Bullring.
Bullring, and you said bull something else?
Yes, I got it half right.
Was it unintentional, Dave?
It was just something my grandfather said all the time. It's the only thing I could think of.
Oh, listen to you. Oh, goodness. Having known these folks for much of my life, I know that they are different as oil and water, if you will, and had two very different teaching styles. Dave was my 7th grade math teacher, and that he was the 3rd teacher that our 7th grade had that year. And tell how you came in to Triton, Dave.
Well, I had applied because Janie was already teaching across the street. We lived right across the street from the high school. And I had applied, but I graduated from college in January and there were no openings. So I was actually working in Canal Fiberglass when IPS called me. And I went to work there, and I'd been there 4 days. And on Thursday night, we happened to go to the Shelbyville basketball sectionals, and Mr. Meisberger asked me if I was still interested in his job. And I said, sure, I'll do anything. Janitor, bus driver, what you got? And he said, no, we're going to fire that one math teacher we hired.
Oh, my.
So he asked me when I could start, and I said, it's, after this week, I'm yours.
Can you remember your first day that you went in and taught there at Triton Junior High?
I don't know if there was much teaching the first day. I was trying to figure out what was going on. There was no class list, no seating charts, no teacher's addition to a book. The guy before me had taken everything, and it was just kind of getting organized the first day. And it didn't take long, and we had to take a couple students out and straighten them out, and I didn't have really any problems the rest of the year.
Yes, in fact, Dave straightened lots of kids out while he was in his tenure at Triton. You were a great teacher. I learned more in math, and you set me up for Mr. Taylor the next year for sure. And as far as the math teacher, you made such a huge difference. I know that year I was in that class and continued to do so for so many years. So we'll talk about those years in a second, but I want to go to Jane, and I want Jane, you to tell me about your first day of teaching and what it was like.
I was real little. I mean, I was 98 pounds and looked young, and I was scared, but very, very, what do I want to say, optimistic. I was going to change everybody. And I taught um, French for 2 periods and English for the rest of the day. And it was just a real challenge. And Mr. Hatton was our principal there then, and I was scared of him. He was a scary
As
person.
a teacher, you were scared of the principal too. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And the kids were too. So didn't have too many discipline problems.
Mhm.
So
Mm-hmm.
had 35 kids in one English class.
Oh yeah, they were big classes back then.
Mhm.
I was really, really blessed. I had Jane for French when I was a senior, and also had her for English
When
when
you
I
were a
was
junior.
yes, and it was a good thing. It was a good thing. Jane was an excellent teacher, and she attracted a lot of the kids that. Just kind of felt a little out of place, I would say. Didn't you tell me a story about that? That you,
Well, especially during my last few years of teaching, uh, some of the other teachers called me the nerd collector
mm-hmm,
because the very, very smart kids didn't fit in, and they were being harassed in the halls before school. I know they were, and
mm-hmm,
my room was always open, and I would talk with them and sit there, and they would do their homework, and
mm-hmm,
they weren't even, some of them weren't even kids I had in class.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah,
said that's why I like the Big Bang Theory
yep.
because I love those kids.
I know you did. I know that both of you have always loved your students. You had a passion for those people, not a passion for your job so much. Although both of you wanted to excel and do the best that you could always do, I know that. But you really, really cared about the kids, and the two of you came from such different backgrounds. Jane, you came from a very stable family that everything was just kind of, what was it you said, a beaver cleaver household.
Right.
And Dave, on the other hand, grew up not so much, right? Great, Dave?
No, not really. I was raised by my grandparents. My parents split up when I was just a few months old. And my grandparents took me in. Otherwise, I'd gone to the orphan's home because my parents both moved away. And they raised me, and my grandfather and grandmother did, in my opinion, a great job with what they had to handle. But yeah, it was a lot different.
Right. And I think now that I'm older and wiser and I know all these things about you, didn't know that stuff when I was in school, of course, but looking back at the way both of you taught, your upbringings definitely influenced how you taught and also enabled you to embrace students, help kids in ways that had you not had the upbringings that you did, it just wouldn't have been the same. Dave, especially you. I know that we joke about you being tough, but no, thought you were tough. I never wanted to misbehave in your class. That was for sure. But so many of those students that you taught through the years, you still keep in touch with today.
Yes, I love that part of Facebook, seeing the kids and what they're doing nowadays, all their professions and their jobs, their families. And a lot of them are still in the community too. There are a lot of them, some of them aren't, but it's really neat to see how they've turned out.
Oh.
A lot of them have turned their lives around from, they weren't like me. I wasn't the best student in the world ever in school. I never once thought I was going to go to college. And I was a little bit on the rougher side, and a lot of my kids were. And that's kids I could identify with mostly. But I taught teaching everybody by the same rules. Everybody follows them. Good, bad, or indifferent. You live by one rule.
Exactly. And you thought outside of the box a little bit and thought of ways to reach those kids. As you said, not everybody's cut out to be a book learning kid. There are people that you can remember that have had hugely successful professions in construction and things like that, and their interests were different than the kids that were going on to college. And so you cultivated that by starting a program that was really a very country feeling like program about gun safety, correct?
Yes.
Hunting safety?
When
Tell
the
me a
state
little bit.
instituted the hunter safety education classes, a couple of the local gentlemen, Doc Judah and Bud Elmore, got me involved, and then I was just happened to be writing my curriculum, so I just wrote that right into my curriculum for health and safety class.
Oh my gosh, and they allowed it.
Yes, our educational director didn't think much of it, but she was outvoted. So, and it's funny because even to this day, I still hear from students needing their numbers or their copies of cards, because anywhere you go on state property or out of state, you have to have hunter safety.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the main things I usually get complimented on, was the kids loved it.
Sure.
Even the kids that don't shoot or anything, they enjoyed it.
Sure.
And you told some of the parents didn't want their kid in for need safety. And he had done a survey, and about 90% of the households in this area have a gun
In the house.
in the
Mhm.
house. So even if you don't believe in guns, your kid is going to be
Around
around
guns.
guns.
That's right. And to know how to safely be
What's right,
around
what's
them
wrong,
is an
and-
important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought at first, I don't know, David.
Sure.
But it's turned out to be a real good idea.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that you've said that to one another throughout your teaching careers and throughout your marriage. How many years have you been married?
Working on 51.
51 years. Many times you've looked at each other and said, I'm not sure. But that's what makes a strong marriage too. Questioning each other and
Work through it.
you do work through it. You work through
I
it.
know one thing that you probably don't know, Kathy.
Tell me.
When we went to decided we were going to take our first trip to England and France.
Yes, Jane Bratton, in teaching French, also established every couple of years you would take a group every 3 years, so that if you were a 4-year French student, you had an opportunity to go, and you went to England and France. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Tell us about that.
Well, we had gone to Quebec and Montreal in a camper. That was a huge.
16 of us.
Yeah, it was
With kids?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh my gosh.
and Bill Stout's parents went with us.
They were chaperones with us.
And we
Okay.
had more fun, but our camper broke down the first day, and it was a real experience.
In
But
Oshawa, Canada.
yeah,
That's where it broke down.
but anyhow, when we went the first trip to Europe, your sister-in-law, Lisa Miller,
Yes.
was the very first person that signed up.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
took 6 kids and us.
Uh-huh.
That was it.
Uh-huh. Wow. And how many trips did you
I knew
make?
you were going to ask me that.
Can't remember.
Can't
Okay.
remember.
Well, that would have been
I
about
think
in
about-
what, 79? 80?
She was in third year French when she,
So it would have been probably 80.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we went 11 or 12 times with students,
Mm-hmm.
and then we took an adult trip.
I bet there was more trouble with the adults than the kids.
You cannot get a woman from point A to point B without stopping to shop.
Guilty.
I loved it. I loved it because
If I got on those kids, they towed the line. Those women just laugh at you.
I love it. Yeah. What do you mean? You're taking me to France and you're not going to let me shop? No.
we went to London with the adults. We went to London, Paris, and Rome. By that time, we'd been to Rome, and David and I, not with kids, and I loved it because you could sleep
Mm-hmm.
at night, where when you took with the kids,
You had to be keeping an eye,
You
even
had-
though they were good kids. You
yeah,
had
they
to,
were good kids.
You were in a
and we
foreign
really
country
didn't
and-
have too much
yeah.
trouble, but
yeah.
there were some things that we found out went on after we got back that
Right.
we wouldn't have allowed if
Right.
we'd known they were going
What we
on.
don't know didn't hurt us at the time, right?
Right.
Or 3 of your girl students on the last day when we're flying home come down the steps and they've colored their hair.
going home a different color. Bet Mom and Dad got excited about that.
Oh, yeah.
One of them went to our church, and I thought the mother would be horrified, but it was actually the dad.
Oh my goodness. My goodness. How many years did you teach?
34.
34. And Dave?
33 and almost a half.
And almost a half. And almost a half. Well, I'm telling you, folks, I, for one, can attest to the fact that they have made a difference in so many lives of young folks that came out of that Triton High School. I, for one of them, I'm grateful to have had people that were caring, that were good through and through. And I thank you guys for spending time with me today and sharing a little bit. I know we still have great teachers over there at Triton. It's a wonderful school system. And to have had the examples of the two of you, they got a lot to live up to. But thank you so much.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, you can say one more thing.
David and I are praying that everything goes well this year. And we are both happy that we're not going through it.
Oh, I think a lot of the retired teachers are saying, oh, I'm glad this wasn't on my watch.
Right.
Yeah.
But kudos to the teachers that are making it work. And yes, the prayers go out to all of them, and that there's patience on every level with the teachers and with the students, and knowing that we'll all get through this for sure. So thank you.
No amount of education could have prepared them for this.
No, that's right, Dave. That's right. Thanks so much. And here we are at Triton Central High School with a Triton grad, a soon-to-be Triton grad, and an incoming freshman. That would be, of course, my husband and the maintenance director here, Chuck Miller, my handsome grandson, because he really is handsome underneath that tiger mask, Jackson Miller, and lovely Gracie May, who smiles with her eyes even above that mask. Thank you. So, school is starting. We're recording this on Monday before school starts, and Chuck has been working really hard to get everything ready. And Chuck, you attended school here, that's right?
Yes, I did. Gracie, as an incoming freshman, you've got it made, because when I went to school here, it was 7th and 8th grade, and the high school then. So the junior high, so I went all six years here. But that was the last year they did it that way. So as a 7th grader, we was the youngest class, and as a 7th grader, you never ventured upstairs. All our classes was down on this east wing or down the north side. So then the next year they opened up the elementary school, and so they sent the 7th graders over there. So there again, as 8th graders, we was the youngest one in the building. So then the next year, when we was freshmen, they opened up the middle school. And so again, they moved the 8th grade over there. So again, as freshmen, we was the youngest. So boy, when we finally got to be sophomores, we really made freshmen's life miserable. So
that wasn't very nice. What class was that, Chuck? The class of 1974?
Well, I graduated in 74.
Right.
So it'd be the class of 75 that we kind of picked
Poor kids.
on. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes.
But, so it won't be at all like that for an incoming freshman for you this year.
But
So-
I'm sure the kids have changed, Chuck, since you were in school. Jackson, you wouldn't say that anybody here would give freshmen a hard time, would you?
No, as long as they don't act out of line.
Oh, long as they don't act out of line. Listen to you. So, tell me, Gracie May, what are you looking forward to for this year?
I'm looking forward to volleyball.
To volleyball, okay. Is there any class that you particularly like?
Art class.
Art class, okay.
Yeah.
And Gracie May is being very modest. Gracie's a very good student. She left that junior high over there with a 4.0, so she's being very, very modest, and it's okay for Gammy K to brag about her. And there, Jack, so what are you looking forward to this year?
I'm looking forward to getting to see all my friends at the start of the year and this coming basketball season. Real excited with how everything's going to go.
Good. I'm excited about that, Stu. And you'll be finally excited to be finished with classes this year, right?
Yep.
Yep, at least for a little while. So that's a good thing. You notice they've all got masks on, guys, and that's because just like us at the senior center, everybody's going to have to wear masks when they come to school. And Jackson and Gracie and Chuck all are behaving themselves as they should. I don't believe they're sticking their tongues out at me underneath those glasses. So
You'll never know.
no, I'll never know, will I? Okay, well, I think what you should do, Chuck, Jackson knows his way around here just fine. And let's take Gracie on a little tour and take our folks at the senior center on a little tour of Triton. They've probably not been here for a while themselves.
Well, we're going to
East Hall, this is one of the original halls. The library used to be down there on the left for you older Triton folks. And let's see, Mr. Ritchie's got his class all set up. Ah, Gracie, that's pretty cool. Yep, looks like everything's ready to go. Jim, let's go upstairs where they said that Chuck never got to go till he was a freshman. So for 3 years he was hanging around here before he got to come up here, Gracie. You'll climb these stairs many, many, many times in the next few years. Well, this is the upstairs part of the original building, but look what's changed, folks. Up here on the ceiling tiles, they're telling me that probably for the last 5 years, the seniors have been able to paint a ceiling tile if they wanted to. And so all of these tiles above my head are painted. That's my other grandson's ceiling tile he left his mark with, a piece of pizza. Imagine that, a senior boy and pizza. But there's some really cool things up here. What a fun thing. Gracie, you'll have to think about what it is that you would like to put up here in a few more years. All kinds of things. Okay, let's look at another classroom here. Oh, look here. This is Jackson's favorite teacher's class. Mr. Hill. Jax told me that was his favorite teacher. And I know Jackson's going to be in this room. You going to be in this room too, Gracie?
Uh-huh.
What are you going to be in here for?
History.
For history. Okay. Just still looks like a classroom always did. Some things never change. No, they don't. Here's something new, folks, that wasn't here when I was here, and you either. This is a TV screen as you walk in the door that will give instructions for the day in case there are any announcements that need to be on there. I love what it says. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt. It's a great. Several years ago, Mike Buck, a teacher here, decided that it was important to put the pieces of all of these schools that joined together to form Northwestern Consolidated Schools, of which Triton High School, of course, is our high school now. They thought it was important to have a museum of sorts. And if you visit the high school, this is in the front hallway on proud display for everyone to see.
The freshman hall.
And do you have to put a lock on that, Gracie?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I had to put locks on too. And I was lousy at it. I never could manage a combination lock, so I just kind of let it hang on there.
That's what I did.
Is that what you do too? We're not
Yes, dear.
supposed to do that. We're liable to get caught. That's not good. Oh, well. Okay. Do you have any classes down this hall, Gracie?
Yeah. Weightlifting?
Weightlifting
Yeah. For volleyball?
for volleyball. Okay. Did they do that? Did they do that instead of gym now? Is that what happens?
No, there's a gym class and a weightlifting class, but weightlifting is more for like the athletes and gym is for everyone.
Okay. So you and Jackson both are going to be in weightlifting. Is that right?
We have it the same period, first period.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
bet you're all looking forward to that, brother and sister in the same class.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in school, they didn't have those things. And even if they did, I wouldn't have been in weightlifting because I was never an athlete. But we had gym class. And do you know what I hated the most in gym class?
What?
We had to take showers together.
Ooh.
That was did they do that big? No, they don't
No,
do that
they don't
anymore.
do that anymore.
Oh, that worried me to death the first time I had to do that. And we had the ugliest gym outfits that everybody had to have one that was alike. Just really, really ugly. And here we have made it down to the infamous Tiger Gym. It's changed a lot, folks, since it graduated its first class all those years ago. There's a great administration here now, great teachers. This is a really good school. And that kid is a good student too, though he's got the basketball bug. Jackson is a great student. And he just made a basket. He's showing off a little bit, but that's okay. You know, I measured him the other day at my house, really trying to embarrass him. And, Gammy K's not good at that. And 6'4" this year. Oh, look there. Okay. Oh, Gracie's going to try to school him. I don't think that's going to happen. She's a volleyball player. Oh, no, I don't think so. Didn't work.
Let me show you how to do it.
Papa, you graduated in 1974. I don't think you're up for a game of anything with your grandson. No, don't hurt him, Jax. Don't hurt him. Don't hurt him. Don't hurt him. Oh, no. Oh, Papa, he schooled you. He schooled you. You want to try one shot before we leave the gym, Chuck?
Think he can stop me?
I know he can stop you. Don't,
Think so?
Jackson, don't hurt him, okay? Don't hurt him.
Yo, hook job!
Oh, oh, that's all right. Next time. Come on, guys. Tell everybody. See ya. We hope you guys have a great school year. We're going to be following Gracie on her volleyball. We'll follow you, Jax, on your basketball. And thanks for being such good sports and
I'd have
wearing.
made that one if I hadn't had my mask on.
You'd have what?
I'd have made that one if I hadn't had my mask on.
I don't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
think that's a good excuse.
Sure.
Mask was in your eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fun to see those kids growing up. It's hard to believe Jackson's a senior, Gracie May's a freshman. It's hard to believe it's been that many years since Chuck played basketball on that same floor. And times have changed, many things, and you worry about the kids getting started. They're going to be wearing masks, like I said, just like we are, and I'm sure there's a lot of anxious feelings for everyone, both teachers and students alike. But I know that this administration has just done a super job in doing everything that they can to protect these kids. And there's a teacher here, Jeff Wilson. He's taught a long time. He had my kids. And he's the one who announces for all the ball games and does all the wonderful plays here. He's a math teacher. And his parents, too, were teachers. And a week or so ago, Jeff sent out to his fellow members of the staff a piece that his mom and dad had found, and they had forwarded to him. And it's really, really wonderful. I want to share it with you as we close out this Kathy's Corners today. This was from Mr. Wilson. And he gives credit to having two passionate teachers in his life. Though he never got away with anything as a student, he says. Anyway, it says, really tough times. Imagine your great-grandparents. They were born around 1900. On their 14th birthday, during their freshman year, World War I had started, lasting throughout their entire high school career. If they were fortunate enough to be one of the small minorities of American students that graduated from high school, 22 million people died that year during the war. During their senior year, the Spanish flu began, and it lasted until they turned 20 years old. 50 million people died from that epidemic. When they turned 29, the Great Depression started. Unemployment hit 30%, and the world's GDP dropped by 30%. By the time they reached age 35, America had almost completely collapsed along with the world's economy. On their 41st birthday, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, and by the time they turned 45, another 75 million people had died because of World War II. Also, during their 40s, the smallpox epidemic took the lives of another 300 million. From age 50 to 53, your great-grandparents saw another 5 million die in the Korean War. In their 60s and their 70s, they watched the Vietnam War take another 4 million lives, while also watching their friends and their children and grandchildren die from polio. Not to mention that when they turned 62, the entire world almost exterminated itself during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Jeff writes, perspective is an amazing thing. Our great-grandparents dealt with all that, and their generation made it, and contributed to the wonderful legacy that we inherited. It's now our turn to keep that legacy going under much better circumstances than they ever had. We will get through this year of this 2020 coronavirus. And I'm so proud to work with each of you daily, whether it's just down the hall or from our living rooms. Looking forward to seeing you all next week. Great words from a great teacher. Just an example of one of the great teachers in this school system. Yep, our kids are in good hands. This next generation is going to be just fine. And they're going to have all their wonderful tales to tell about their school days to their grandkids someday.